You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Hey entrepreneurs, it's your Podcast Mogul Phil Better here. I am excited for this episode as I know you are. Before we jump into this episode, I'm going to ask you if you are also a podcaster and you're looking to grow your podcast or monetize your podcast, make sure you stay till the end of the episode. I have a special deal for you, or a special offer, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur
Ladies
Podcast.
and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I'm excited to have our guest today, another amazing Canadian in the information technology area with over 18 years of experience. For the last 15 years, though, in the professional service and consulting, our guest helps companies access government funding programs and helps companies in a helps companies access government funding programs and helps companies in a varied of industries to file, maximize, and sustainable tax credit claims. His clients represent a number of industries, including telecommunications, software, IT, electronics, financial services institution, aerospace, defense, health, IT, and biotechnology. He assists his clients in a number of areas, including determining of eligible expenditures, preparation of technical reports, review of documents, incorporating best practices to maximize claim size, and handling potential CRA matters, including audit defense, which no one wants to deal with audits. Our guest is heavily involved in business development initiatives, working with international companies to enter the Canadian market, develop strategic partnerships with technology associates, and working closely with startup companies to help them get to the next level. He also works to mentor, connect, and introduce companies to the accounting business functions at his current company, Grant Thornton. Please welcome Naren. Naren, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Naren, I'm going to just ask you to quickly introduce yourself. I gave this beautiful bio of you that's very vast, but who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, actually, it's Naren, but yeah.
I apologize. I didn't even want to attempt at your last name because I listened to it on LinkedIn and I was like,
it's about.
I'm not going to hurt you with that. So, Naren, sorry about that.
No, okay. I didn't mention that off the top, but no. Again, thanks for having me, Phil. I would say, yeah, I can sort of take you back to sort of my story. You gave me sort of the introduction in terms of where I am now, but I kind of started at a different spot. So in university, I studied computer science. So back in the day, there was remember the tech boom, the .com days. It was kind of the trend for a lot of people at the time to look at technology, and I largely played out if you look at where we are with technology, you look at right now it's AI, ChatGPT, and things like that. It was much different back then, but still it was trending in that direction. So, I always had an interest in technology, even growing up, playing around with my, the PCs and then the different things that we used to have as kids. But I got into that field. And so, I did, a lot of the typical software, hardware, things like that. Came out of school, and I started working in software. So in industry, doing a lot of the coding and doing a lot of the other things like testing, a lot of different things, a lot of accounting software. Worked at IBM actually when I was coming as part of a co-op program in school, and then coming out of school as well. So had that experience, and then it sort of it shifted for me, as I was kind of looking at my career path, and I said, I like it, but I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my career. So I was kind of looking at different things, different options. And this is where kind of I entered. I had done business as kind of a minor in through high school and university as well. And so I did have an interest in business. I did have an interest in, like maybe working more closely with people and companies and things like that. So that's where I was kind of brought into this opportunity. It was an accounting firm. It was kind of blending my, my love of technology and but also the aspect of and being able to work with, entrepreneurs and working with companies, working with people doing really innovative things. And so that's where this journey started kind of 15 years ago, got involved and sort of haven't looked back. So the idea there is just, as you mentioned off the top, it's really looking to help companies take advantage of funding. So we do a lot of different things, but it's really the funding space. The number one question I always get from entrepreneurs is, money, right? So how do we scale? How do we get to the next level? What do we do to increase our runway? And so I'm really proud. I'm really happy that I'm able to be a part of that. I think I've, really been able to help a lot of companies and be a real big part of the Canadian innovation ecosystem. And so my role is expanded. Obviously, when I first started, it was kind of more just focusing on one program and helping very specific clients. But, over the years, I've been able to work with a lot of different companies, a lot of different associations, a lot of different groups, and it continues to grow, I would say. So that's kind of where I started, where I am now. And it's really what it's my passion, really, is technology, helping people. And it kind of brings all of those things together. So I'm kind of fortunate to where I am now.
You were able to find a corporate job, in essence, that just blends your passion of helping people and just figuring problems out.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. It's like when I came into an accounting firm, it was interesting when I first started, and this was kind of consulting role, and I didn't really even know what it entailed. They were looking for somebody with a tech background, and it's an accounting professional services group, and you're like, okay, so I'm not doing accounting, and I'm not doing sort of software coding. So what is this, right? But yeah, that's exactly it. It's the opportunity to work with clients. Dynamic, every day it's something new. That's the beauty of this job, is really just being able to work with different companies, different industries, and getting to see kind of be at the forefront of technology. You're not the doer of the technology, but you're helping to help facilitate and helping companies advance. So the idea is like, hey, you're doing some really cool things. How can we get you to the next stage? How can we support you with some funding to do that? So you're kind of at the forefront of technology. You're letting the entrepreneurs and the startup founders do their thing. And that's what they're good at. And then you're sort of complementing that, right? So, they don't have the time to maybe look at these types of, these kind of business considerations, the funding considerations. That's where we can come in. It's almost like a partner. Like I'm going to come in and help. So that's a great way of putting it. It's like what I wanted to do from a passion perspective, but doing it in the kind of confines of a corporate environment, which gives me a lot of support and backing.
Yeah, it's what all entrepreneurs pretty much want to do. Get paid to do their passion with the protection of having a big corporation. You hack the system as it is. So I'm a little jealous, to tell you the truth. When you decided what was the first real role that you had when you were at Grant? Because that's pretty much where you've been for the last 15 years. Was it working in like a specific niche, or was it working on a specific, okay, I'm only going to help people with getting this kind of government funding?
Yeah, so Grant Thornton, I've been here about 8 years. Prior to that, I was in another firm. I was a big corporate, but yeah, same kind of role, I would say, Phil. So the idea was, I guess the interest for me was just it comes back to kind of the technology. So just, it's the space that we play in. It's a lot of entrepreneurs, it's a lot of startups, it's a lot of early stage companies. And that does present some challenges, obviously, like being an entrepreneur and working with entrepreneurs. Sometimes there's a lot of hand holding, and there's a lot of, challenges that come along with that. But I kind of like that. I've seen a lot of success stories come out of it. There's a lot of, initial, you're investing time, but you see that growth, right? You see companies doing some really, really well. And so for me, yeah, I think that's what it was. It was just kind of working with a specific client base tech focused. Our practice is not exclusively tech, but that's kind of the area that I focus on. But I was kind of attracted to Grant Thornton in terms of its culture, and again in terms of that sort of client base. Like they do work on some larger clients and some public companies and like that, but that's not really the focus. The focus is the private company, the startup, the mid-sized company, the companies that are kind of in that hockey stick kind of scale up mode. Those are the companies that really are exciting me, and that's kind of what attracted me to the role that I'm in now.
When you first meet up with a client, what is the initial stage? Like, let's say, are you actively it's not poaching, it's what's that word? Are you prospecting, or are they already aware of who you are, your company is, and they come to you?
It's kind of both. I would say, some of our clients come from, for example, so Grant Thornton is a large firm, so we have some other services that we are already offering certain clients, but they may not be benefiting from our group. So particularly around the funding. So a lot of that is like just through existing relationships. So they'll get it. I get introduced, and I'll be able to work with them and help them. That's maybe half. The other half is really the prospecting side, which is a big part of what I do. So that's associations with different tech associations, with networking events, with looking at other groups like complementary groups like like the BDC or the banks or lawyers or other relationships that I have, or just being referred to by other clients that we work with. So when we do great work for our clients, oftentimes we'll get introduced because, as you probably know, the ecosystem is pretty well connected. So everybody seems to know everyone and say, hey, like, we talked to Naren about, funding, we work with him. So we do get a lot of that. So yeah, in some cases, they already know coming in, what this is and what we do. In some cases, it's myself just kind of going outwardly and saying, hey, like, promoting myself and saying, or promoting our practice and saying, yeah, this is what we do. This is what we can offer. This is how we can help you. So I'd say it's kind of a mix, Phil, in terms of the process. But that's another part. I didn't even talk about it earlier, but that's another part that really excites me. It's just that ability to network and build out my network and being able to help others. I really like that part of it. So it's a bit of a challenge sometimes to do it, but I've something that over the years I've really come to like.
When you were first doing that networking part, the prospecting part, because I know for a lot of people in the consulting space or freelance space, that's the big crux, because that's like you have to put yourself out there, that risk of being like, hey, like for me as getting people on my podcast, it's super easy. Everybody wants to talk on a podcast. Like prospecting is like, hey, come on my podcast,
Yeah.
What was it like for you the first time you went out prospecting for potential clients for your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's coming from the world I was in. I was very, focused on, like, let's say, software development, right? And you're not really doing any networking. You're focused on a very small task, and maybe you would talk to your team and stuff like that, and other people that you work with. But really, that was brand new. So yeah, definitely in the beginning, it was all net new. It was all new to me. So it was a bit of a learning exercise. Like when you're going to an event, what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to do? Like, how are you supposed to present yourself? But what I found really worked for me was kind of don't go in with an expectation that you need to land a client or you need to sell something. Like it's better when it's more natural. So the idea is you're coming in, just strike up a conversation with someone, find out. And what I found was people would love to talk, right? People love to talk about themselves, ask questions. People love to share about what they're doing, what they're passionate about, what they're interested in. And then from that, if it turns into something, great. If it doesn't, you still sort of, I feel like you still build a skill. Like you've learned something. You put yourself out there and you kind of build on that, right? So that's what I found worked. So in the beginning, it was definitely daunting because it's all new, right? You go to an event, you do something. It's like, how am I supposed to do this? What am I supposed to do here? What's the expectation? But I find that when you think of it as more of a, hey, this is like a learning thing for me. Like this, like, hey, let me just put myself out there and. Man, whatever the result is, it doesn't matter, right? It's more like just let me do the right things, and that eventually will translate, and then it becomes easier because once you do it once you do it twice, you go to these things, it just becomes more natural, and then likewise too, people come to you, and then what you also realize is a lot of these people at events are in a similar position as you, right? Like they're kind of new to it, and so you find that. Some people are better at it, but you'll find a commonality. I find when you do a lot of these things. So I think it's gradual. It's gotten better and it's gotten easier now. It's something I really do like. But I know in the beginning there was a bit of a kind of a learning curve with it.
No, I can tell you enjoy just the way you're so relaxed talking with us on the podcast. I'm pretty sure you'll put anybody at ease when they meet you at a networking event and want to work with you.
No, appreciate that. Yeah.
When you're working with your clients, is there a common issue that you find a lot of them have that just it's a kind of threaded through all of them?
Yeah, I would say, especially if it's a certain type of client, like in the early stage, I think it goes back to a comment I made. Like, I think clients are was very good at what they are doing. So the problem that they're trying to solve. So like it's a specific, technology or a specific solution that they're trying to provide to a specific industry. They're really good at that. Like that's what they went to school for. That's the idea that they have, and that's what they should focus on. I think where the challenges we see are really around some of the other stuff, right? So how do you run the business? How do you do things like your taxes? How do you, your payroll? How do you, get funded? How do you, get your legal things in order? And so the accounting side, I think that's where a lot of it is, because it's, again, you're really good at this. And I think that's the way it should be. You should really be focused on this. You're not expected to be, an expert in all these other areas. So I think the biggest challenge is kind of like, making sure that they're well set up in these other areas, and you can kind of take some of those things off their plate. So I find that the clients that have done really well, and from my experience, are the ones where they really partner up with good support system right from the beginning. So you have someone you can go to for, as a mentor, someone you can talk to about these different functions, or you're part of an accelerator group where, a lot of these things, these types of supports are available. So it's kind of like, you don't want to go in like sort of on your own and try to do all of these things, because it's just not going to work. And then you're kind of taking away from, what you're trying to do, the real problem that you're trying to solve. So I think that's where it is. And then, like, to be honest, in our group, or for what we do, I think the funding, especially the government funding space, is a bit of a challenge just to navigate, like, just the tax credits and grants. There's a lot of stuff out there. There are challenges around like what's available to me, how do I access it? So we definitely do see that. And then again, that's where we come in to try and help make that process easier, make that process smoother. So I think those would be some of the challenges that I kind of see. It's like, if I look at kind of common challenges, obviously, certain companies might have a very specific challenge based on what they're doing, but those are some of the common challenges that I see.
Now, you brought up the government funding, which I'm always interested in, because the government's there to help us, and you hear about the government's giving giant tax breaks to these multinationals. And then you think about, well, I'm a small little guy here in the ecosystem. What kind of programs are there available to startups? Like, are there specific startups that can get funding, or is it open to all types of startups?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's kind of two types of programs in Canada. So there's the tax credits, and then the biggest program there is called the SR&ED program. So it's scientific research and experimental development. So this is available to any company in any industry. The only thing is you have to be doing is incurring some cost. So the idea is, hey, like, you're paying, either you're paying some employees, you're paying for some third-party contractors that are doing R&D work. So as long as the work is eligible in terms of it's kind of innovative work, that's R&D. And obviously a lot of companies in Canada are doing R&D. That's kind of the foundation for advancing technology in Canada. And you have those costs. You can definitely take advantage of those programs. And actually, to be honest, Phil, those programs are, I would say, more geared to small, medium-sized companies. The larger companies, yes, they get tax breaks. But it's typically at a lower rate versus the smaller, medium-sized companies that are getting refundable credits. And a refundable credit means you're getting actually cash back as opposed to a tax break. So it's good in both ways, right? The tax break is great. It means you're being profitable and you can reduce your tax. But if you're not, you can still benefit and get cash back through that system. On the other side, for startups specifically, I would say there's grants, and grants are what we call like direct funding. So let's say, for example, you're going to hire someone, you're going to, a new graduate out of a STEM program, or you're looking to hire a student or something like that. We find that startups are able to access some of those subsidies to kind of reduce the hiring cost. And then similarly, some of the ones that we see on the startup side are like, there's innovation programs like IRAP. Or there's programs like Can Export, which is if you're looking to doing like an export of your product into other markets beyond Canada. We do see some benefits for startups getting those type of programs. So there is some support. At what we find on the grant side, though, is as you scale and as you start to generate revenue, there's more programs that do open up for sure. But certainly there are programs even at the early stage that government programs that companies can take advantage of.
I do want to touch on, because working with the government it's not the easiest stuff. If anybody has tried to do anything with them because of the bureaucracy and all that, that's just because of the times.
Sure.
But I would love to have a tip for someone, a small startup that may not be able to connect with you because they can't afford the services, or they don't think they necessarily need it.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them, or a tip you would have for them starting working with the government to look for these grants or these tax credits or cashback tax credits?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you're right in some sense. Like, it may be too early to talk to a group like us. What I would say is, I'm always happy to have a conversation, just to put that out there, even if it's a 15-minute conversation, just to help guide companies. I know how it can be, just working with entrepreneurs. Just having that, touch point is always great. There are resources though. So the one that maybe, in some capacity you can share with the audience is that there's a link on the Government Canada website called the Business Benefits Finder. So it's a great resource, and we actually use it internally because these programs get updated all the time. It's like it's like a link. You go in, you put in some information. So, hey, like, we're a startup, we're based, where you're based, what industry, how many employees you have, whether or not you do, if you have any revenue, and then you sort of select, the types of funding you're looking for. So if it's grants, it's tax credits. It'll also link up other sources of funding, with other, angel VC groups like the BDC. And so what it does is, in like a couple minutes, it just spits out like a listing of potential programs. Now, you may not qualify for them all now, but the idea is, you can sort of set yourself up for it in the future to try and access these programs. So I find it's a really good starting point resource especially if you're brand new to the government funding space in Canada. You can kind of use that as a resource. And then the nice thing is it'll actually link to each of the individual programs. So if you click on one, it'll take you to the website, or it'll give you a bit of a snippet around what that program is, what the requirements are. So it's a really good snapshot. It's a good place to start, I would say, for startups.
So just to get the idea of like, oh, this is the ecosystem that I can play in and line up to hit the certain ones that are further along for.
Exactly. Yeah, it just gives you a picture of what funding in Canada looks like. So. Yeah.
Have you seen a change in the types of programs that are available to Canadian startups in the time that you've been working?
Definitely, yeah. I think the SHRED program, the R&D program, has been around for a long time, and it's pretty well stayed the same. They've made tinkered with it over the years around, certain eligibility or certain requirements, or how the program is reviewed. So those things have changed. But in pretty much it's been the same program. The genesis of the program has stayed the same. Where I would say there's been a lot of changes really on the grant side. So what we've seen more recently is like a real push for like these super clusters. Like there's Ocean Super Cluster, there's AI. I think there's a lot of funding for AI type projects, and which makes sense, kind of what we're seeing in the landscape right now. I've actually seen it get better. If I had to kind of recap it, like I would say that we've seen more programs come through the pipe. Is it perfect? No. I think to your point about like more government programs, not always easiest to access. There's some stringent requirements sometimes. There's program reviews sometimes. So some of them come and go. Some programs, like the ones that I mentioned earlier, have been around in some capacity for a long time. So I think it's definitely gotten better. And I would say what's definitely gotten better since I've been in school too, like almost every college and university now, you're going to see some sort of an entrepreneurship program. You're going to see some sort of an accelerator program. That was new. When I was in school, we didn't really have that support for entrepreneurs. So that kind of goes alongside what we see in the funding space. Like I think Canada is really trying to push that. They want to see entrepreneurs do well. So they want to see more support systems. So there's a lot of support. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. So like, I think one of the big things that we're still trying to do in Canada is we're good at the R&D, the innovation, ideation phase when you're trying to get funded to keep going. It's the commercialization side where I think, companies, you still see companies leave Canada to take their ideas to the US or something like that. We're trying to keep that sort of know-how in-house. Like there's still some room there, I would say, just on the commercialization side. There's been talk of, patent box regimes, which we see in other countries. Like Canada doesn't really have something like that. How do we protect that, IP? How do we keep that in Canada? I think that's where there's still room for improvement, but it's definitely gotten better. I think the whole innovation ecosystem has definitely gotten better over the years, what I've seen since I've been in it.
As a fellow Canadian, I'm very happy to hear that things are getting better and better. It's improving for us. I would love to hear about maybe a memory or a story of one of the people that you've worked with, one of the entrepreneurs or businesses that you worked where they came in, they were kind of maybe a little lost, and then they were able, through the help working with you, Naren, to hit that goal that they were struggling to hit beforehand.
Yeah, there's quite a few. If I kind of recall one, this was a number of years ago. This is a company that's done quite well. They're in the e-commerce space, so they were one of the first people to do like the mobile apps for flyers, for coupons, which is that was an industry that was very manual, paper based, coupons like that. So came up with a mobile app. You used to link all of these different, flyers. You can make a list of items. You can, coupon, all that good stuff. So it's a really kind of almost a revolutionary app in a lot of ways. And so, these were young, just almost recent grads that came out of university that kind of built up this technology. And we were really able to help them, again, take advantage of kind of the R&D credits. I think it was kind of new to them. They didn't even realize, that something like this was available. And they were doing some really innovative things with technology, with it sounds simplistic in a way, but just to get like all these kind of manual flyers into a digital form and then be able to do manipulation with the data. Like there was a lot of interesting things that they were doing. So we were really happy to see them get some funding. They had they had gotten funding for multiple years. They were actually recently acquired. So they've done really well. It's like a great story from a sort of Ontario, from a Canada-wide perspective. And I think when we first talked to them, I think, maybe they weren't even aware that this type of, this type of funding was kind of available to them, and it kept for their runway, and it helped them do more and more. So I think that was one of many examples, I think, of a company that's been able to benefit from government funding.
No, I love that recent grads with this idea of moving everything more digital, because that's where we are in this world. It's a more digital space. So saving paper, making things easier. I can get it on my phone, know what I'm saving. You're doing millennials a large favor. I have to thank them for that.
Absolutely. And this is years ago. And like, we've seen a lot more of that now, but back then they were maybe one of the first to kind of do something like that.
So they got the market share for sure. And now they got the payoff with the acquisition.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you had to give advice to someone looking to start their own company, what piece of advice would you suggest that they have, or a tip that you would have for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I'm again very fortunate to see a lot of great ideas come out of a lot of very, very bright people, and a lot of them being very young. So I do deal with companies, folks that are coming out of like fourth year engineering projects, I should say, that are turning those into companies, and that's something you may not have seen 10, 15 years ago. It's just that push for entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, for advice, I think if you have something, you have a good idea, go for it. Like, I think there is support now, where in the past, like you may have, people may have had ideas, and they're like, I don't have the support. How do I get this off the ground? Is this something that's viable? I think that there is a push for that now. Like, I think there is support in place for that now, both from when we talk about these accelerators, incubators, I talk about university programs, all these different funding sources. It's kind of more accepted, I would say. So I think, so the advice I would have is like, if you have something that you think is a really good idea, you're really set up a problem that you're really trying to solve, go for it. Entrepreneurship is a very, it's a very noble thing to do. And I think it's kind of we need them. It is the way I would put it. We need more entrepreneurs. We need more, young people with those bright ideas. And I think the other advice would just be, and I kind of touched on it earlier, but would be, surround yourself with kind of a good support system. So some of these things are in place, but finding, people who have done it before, mentors, other, folks like us, or other, other groups, other partners in the ecosystem that can help you. I think you want to kind of find those early, because those will help you, again, focus your kind of day-to-day on what you're good at and the solution, the problem you're trying to solve, and kind of, leaving some of those other things to experts, and that can help you. So that would be my advice for entrepreneurs, and something that I do on the day-to-day.
I normally ask a spark question. This is a random question. It's from the group from Seek Discomfort. I don't have my cards because I'm in the middle of a move. That's why I'm not in my normal studio. But I do remember one. If you had one goal to achieve this year, what goal would you like to achieve?
That's a great question. So there's, I would say that, if there's an opportunity an opportunity to help see a couple of our team members, sort of junior team members, take the next step. I think I'd love to see them, and I think they're ready. But I would love to see a couple of our, helping coach and mentor some of our team just to get to the next level. I think in their career progression, but just being able to work with them and do that, I think would be a real nice thing for me. I think I always say this, kind of like you're only as strong as the kind of the people around you. And I feel like, you have to help, just as you were helped in your career, you have to help kind of the next set of people come up. And I think that would be a great goal for me to see that happen.
I love that goal. Always giving back, something that I think is kind of really hardcore Canadian, always willing to help everybody else. Naren, we are coming to the end. I'm going to jump off the stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can connect with you, where they can work with you if they need funding, or they're just looking for some a mentor in this space. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks, Phil. I think the best, probably easiest way from a professional perspective is always LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think that would be kind of the best, best way to get in touch with me. We do have our Grant Thornton. I've got a website as well where you can link to some of the what I do and sort of what our practice does. But I think those would probably be the best ways to interact. And obviously email, email is kind of the default for all communication. But I think, between those three, and I'm happy to share those links as well with the audience. So thank you very much.
I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing those secrets, letting us know that there are these tax credits, these grants for us here in Canada to take our business to the next level, especially when we're in the R&D and technology. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me. It was great.
To my audience, as you know, the show notes will have all the links to connect with Naren. Please do so. I'll also have that link to the government website that can show you all the grants and that as well, so you can see what is available for you in the bigger picture. But as always, remember to invest in yourself. Hey, digital entrepreneurs, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Now, if you're looking to take your podcast to the next level, like most of these entrepreneurs have taken their business to the next level, to scale it, if you will, make sure you check out my brand new newsletter. Links are down below. It is called the Monetization Mogul Syndicate newsletter, or it could be Phil Better Stories of Monetization Moguls, or Making Moguls. This is what I do. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. But I want to thank you very much for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.